Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about the SRUNR reading method. Um, so this method's the SRUN reading method stands for review, sorry, survey, read, underline, uh, take notes, and then review. So for survey, that means to skim the reading, paying attention to titles, headings, subheadings, bold terms, and summaries in order to get a general idea of what the information covers before reading more in depth. Then for read, that means to actually read the text and making sure to actively read the text in 10-page increments so that way it's not too overwhelming for the reader. And then while they're doing that, it's important to focus on main ideas and definitions and examples rather than just the filler information. Then comes underlining. So what that is marking key terms, important facts, and main ideas. One important tip for underlining is to avoid over or under highlighting or underlining as that shows passive reading methods. Um, it's not really good to passively read because that means you're not actively retaining the information or learning the information. You could also use like symbols or margin notes to emphasize different types of connections to the text. Then for note taking, just make sure to take notes in your own words. You could either do it handwritten or typed. However, in the article by Blackholm, chapter 7, it talked about how handwriting adds more difficulty, therefore having more benefits in regards to active recall. It also said that it was more beneficial to handwrite them because you had to think critically about how to organize the text um, and like uh, think more in depth of how to write the information down. I mean, it still kind of applies to typing. However, handwriting adds more difficulty. Um, and then when you're taking notes, it's important to summarize concepts, list steps for procedures, or create diagrams and other visual aids that would help you understand the information. Then for review, that just means to go over the notes that were written, as well as the underlined sections of the text to refresh the information. Um, and then lastly, recite slash explain the material in your own words. A method I found very useful is to explain the information as if you're teaching someone and to work through the material, making sure to go over the difficult parts until recalling the information is relatively easy. So by doing that, it makes you think more critically about the information, making sure you fully understand um, the material in order to teach someone else. And, if you don't fully understand it, then it helps point out like what you're having difficulty on, and you can go either get help from someone or look it up online or reread the text to get clarification. So you might be asking why it works. So it makes the material easier to read because you read it in smaller chunks. 10 pages. It's definitely doable, rather than reading like 50 pages at once. It also monitors comprehension, and then also to repetition helps retain information for quick active recall, especially if it's spaced repetition where um, you do it like at once until you understand the information, and then you do it like again like a week later or something like that, or maybe even later that day. Um, and then it also allows the reader to point out important information as well as preparing the text for later review. And then, so something I found really interesting was the effect of repetitive learning and active recall. So according to the National Institute of Health, um, repeated learning strengthens hippocampus activation over time with a decreased reliance on prefrontal cortex regions, which are related to effortful retrieval of memories. Therefore, repetition creates more durable associated memories by retrieving memories from the hippocampus instead of the prefrontal cortex. Just to kind of say that in easier words, is the hippocampus is associated with easier active recall, and then the prefrontal cortex is associated with more effortful, not fully complete recall. And so I've been personally using this reading method since last quarter, and it has helped me quite a bit, especially when it comes to memorizing formulas, sociological research methods, as well as time-specific events from history that are currently contributing to the actions and behaviors of the current populations. I like this method because it makes you break down your studying into actionable steps and makes you think critically about the educational material. This method is pretty effective. However, it is very time consuming. Um, and then it can definitely be overwhelming, like especially if you have reading for multiple classes. Spending let's say like 2 hours just on one reading. It's definitely doable, but it's a lot to kind of just sit there and do, and then with all the different steps and stuff, again, it could be very overwhelming. So some possible tips and improvements to help with that is to break up the steps over different time periods or different days, so it's less overwhelming. And it is also important to recognize that not all steps of this method may be beneficial to the readers, so they could kind of pick and choose what they believe will work best for them. For example, instead of underlining, they could ask questions based on their notes or add stamps or stickers that visualize the sections of the notes or other methods of marking the text that fits the individual's needs. Um, just kind of got to adapt that method to how it better suit the person who's reading the text. And then here's my works cited. This one is the National Institute of Health. And learn log that was just for me to refresh on the method as well as other study methods. And then the last one is from our class.